and I will work on Facebook while you are starting.
Sure.
Hello, everybody. I'm Phil Rogofsky, Director of the Maryland STEM Festival. This is one of our last events, but we expect to be a great event. We have with us Michael Briscoe and a helper. Who's your helper, Mike?
Charles.
Hi, Charles. Nice to have you with us. And they will be talking about naval engineering. They will be using a demo of, I guess it's a robot.
So we're actually going to do some hands-on building, and
Okay.
then what we're going to do while we do that, it gives everyone an opportunity to download our free naval engineering video game.
Mhm.
And you can just go to navalengineers.org, click STEM Fleet. We put a special welcome to all the Maryland STEM Festival participants, and in there is a link to download the Windows version or the Mac version, depending on what computer you have. And then we'll do video gaming for the back half hour, and we'll do a little boat building and talk about how naval engineers use forces for his first little bit. And I'm gonna try and back up so we can get more than just a headless body in this picture. But nice, excellent. So what we're gonna do is try to float some bricks to start out with and talk about some force and motion concepts that we use all the time in naval engineers. So first of all, we all know battleships float, but pennies sink. That's kind of like the big why question. So definitely feel free to use the chat or chime in. We'll try to listen in if you have questions, but I'm going to just ramble for the first half hour so we can cover a lot of science ideas. So the STEM challenge that we're doing right now is to float normal brick. And so you can do this at your home. You can just do this in a bathtub or a kitchen sink. We got a good run of weather in Maryland coming up, so it's a good time to do it. So our boats float. We're using water bottles and duct tape because it's a pretty simple materials to get together. And then we'll try the 40-cent brick on top. Okay. And so what we're seeing there, it's cold. So the gravity is pushing down on the brick, right? And then the water, and you can try to push your boat down. When you push evenly, right, it pushes up pretty well. The problem is that the weight is easy to get undistributed, so we need to make it really evenly spread out. That's all right, no problem. And then we do need more and more water bottles because the air is really hard to sink. But once the air gets replaced by water, that's how we see shipwrecks, and that's when we get into big problems. One thing that we want to make sure that you don't end up using too much of is Scotch tape, or even like the normal clear tape that you use in school. They're not the best for this. You really should go with some duct tape or even some string because the water really gets in there and makes it really weak. So this kind of stuff starts breaking apart pretty quickly. My little boat of 2 water bottles, I think I can sink it evenly, not quite. It's always a battle of forces, and we're trying to balance out the forces from gravity and the forces from buoyancy. So while you keep working on your design, I'm going to grab a little of some things that we cut up beforehand to show these ideas. Scissors are always a good thing to have around for this event. So we have 2 boats here and a piece of road, but we don't need the piece of road right now. So we got one boat that looks pretty boat-like, right? We got some high sides, we got some nice flat bottom, and when we put it in the water, we got a good float, and when we put the brick in, we still get a good float. When I switch it over, and I might even borrow your water tank for a little bit, we get this boat, which does not look like a decent boat. It's got a handle on the side, which is pretty ridiculous. And so when we put in our brick, we're able to balance it out okay. But when we put in 2 bricks, when we really push it, things get to be pretty uncomfortable. if we were all on this boat right now, it'd look a lot like us doing a big lean, and that's not where we want to be. So what we need to do for these boat building challenges, whether you're trying to build a strong boat that can hold up something heavy, or a tall boat that can reach to the sky, we need to have a nice flat bottom so water has a nice big place to push up on. So that's definitely what we're working on right here, right? Where we have a good bottom that water can push up on, and then we can even put bottles on top or on side. So it's really up to you to see what's the best design for going to make water have a lot of places to push. The other thing that water does, it tries to be lazy. So we really got to make it so that water is able to push up evenly and it can hold up what we want. If water is pushing up really strong on one side and gravity is pushing down really strong the other, that's when we get a big flip. And that's what we want to watch out for. So one design thing that we might want to try is to make the bottles, some go one way and some go the other way, and give that a shot. Got the good scissors out. Oh no, not the good scissors. That's cool. Let me give them a little wash. Hone them on my nice rubber tire here. We use the rubber tire to see different ideas for how we build boats. So got a little boat frame here that I can show you, but the idea is that we really need to make a good frame first, then we got to distribute weight pretty well in the middle. I think we're better. And then we're able to really construct a nice boat. And so while we're doing this, please go to navalengineers.org, click STEM-Fleet. You can download that free video game. It's completely free. It's our STEM outreach. And then you'll be able to play a game where you design your own boat that weighs over 1 million pounds by the end of this hour. How did it go?
I think I'm just going to put this so I can put the brick there and this so it can get the stabilized here.
Gotcha. I'm on it. So now,
This is actually kind of deep.
you want the big rope?
Oh, reuse.
Excellent. So I'm going to go a little over the top and a little over the bottom. See how this works out. Ah, that is good rope time. All right, let's give that a shot. So first we want to see if it floats, and second we want to see how strong it is. See if we can hold up one of these bricks. Whoa! So what do you think the problem is?
I can't really set my mind on it.
So there's two forces, right? Gravity's pushing down, water's pushing up.
Mhm.
So let's put your boat back in the water. So I think what we need to think about is water's pushing up on 3 water bottles, right? But the 2 water bottles on top, water's not pushing on it.
Mhm.
So it's not actually letting it balance out too much.
So maybe we should make the boat bigger.
And so let's do a little slow-mo study. Let's watch it flip one more time. Whichever way it flips, we need to add more places for water to push up. So if it flips this way like it did, right, then we need water pushing up here, because that means gravity won this way. If it flipped this way, we would want water pushing up here. We may even want to put a bottle on the front and the back, so that way we can really spread out where water is able to push up on. In the game, we'll talk a lot about ballast tanks. So ships are so large that they float too well, even when they weigh about 250,000 pounds. And we're going to add more weight to them so that they're sturdy and able to float in heavy seas. We don't have to worry about that too much in these hands-on boat building ideas, unless you end up doing something like we did this summer. We did a search and rescue where we were recovering drones in a boat. I got you. And when we were doing that, the drone was kind of heavy enough where the boat was starting to flip over. So we put rocks in the bottom of our boat so it's heavier. And that way it didn't tip over as much. But for something simple like building the tallest boat you can or the strongest boat you can, none of that stuff really requires going to that extra level, but it's a big part of the fleet video game that we'll get into. I'll pull hard. All right. I'm going to pull off a couple pieces here. So if you're trying to set this up for other people, I wouldn't do it this way necessarily. If you've seen us at one of the local STEM events, what I tend to bring is this kind of reusable stuff that works really well. So just some basic skewers and some pipe insulation. And this stuff's like $2 for 6 feet. You can cut it up or you can let the kids cut it up. And then you can stab it with skewers or toothpicks or whatever you want. That's wood. They're dull enough that it won't hurt anyone, but it's reusable. So that way it's very easy to keep doing this day after day, where we are going to consume some supplies. So it's still a little too tall, right?
Mhm.
Let's try and take these two that aren't helping you push it up and put them on the side. And we will use a little clean cut maneuver for some surgical changes. There we go. You need surgery over here. A little more surgery. There we go. And you can just put them where water is going to touch. Go. All right. And I want to finish this one that's making my lazy raft idea over here. Or just giving water lots of places to push up on. We're both getting towards a similar idea. I like this. More tape, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Like a long piece?
A long one.
All right. Got scotch tape stuck to the duct tape.
Increases the strength.
Something like that. All right. So if you're having problems opening up the fleet game or logging in, put that information in the chat and we'll sort it out while I'm here today. But it's completely free. You just have to put in an email address you have access to. So that way you can recover your password. I know you're perfect, but you may forget a password from time to time. And that way you can get access again to your own fleet account, which is completely free forever. And we definitely use fleet in schools for physical science, especially for any force and motion classrooms. This kind of stuff is tied together into, how are we looking? Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo!
Success!
It is success. We're taking on some water in the back. I can see it bubbling though. We might have a loose cap.
That one doesn't have a cap.
Yeah. Oh, gotta find an extra cap. Excellent. Good scavenging. So there's high school and middle school curriculum. Some of it using PhET simulators, some of it using hands-on stuff like this. Nice.
Yay.
But all of it based on the engineering design process.
It works.
Works very well. Let me put mine next to yours. Can you give mine a test?
Sure. I'll take my boat out.
And then that is a good successful boat.
Duct tape.
So I think in a bathtub, you'd actually have more room than we have here. Probably not in a kitchen sink. You can hold on to this. We need to test it on this boat. We'll see if we got 2 successful boats. Whoa, maybe not. The lazy raft is no good. Yeah. So this is a place where you get 2 different kinds of data, right? So your hand can kind of feel if the brick's falling off one way or another. And that's kind of qualitative data. It's not a number, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then we can have a good number of data where we can say, this boat holds 1 brick well, but it's not strong enough for 2 bricks.
And mine hold 2.
That's a good question. And I'm not, usually what I would do is try to tape ours together. Because actually, both working together
It might.
can make for a much stronger boat.
Oh, this one also has a cap.
Close though, right? Oh no, we're down 2 caps.
That was satisfying.
Yeah. Let's grab a cap. See if we can give it a good test. I won't pour the water out of this one.
Wow.
All right. So we're going to switch over to the video game in just 5 minutes. So if you haven't tried to download it yet, please do. Oh, no, it's too big. But we can put tape on it if that's the only one you find. And then what I can also do is I'll be sharing my screen. So if you just want to watch, we did a ton of videos on recording on this summer. We did it every Friday. Are we good? Yep. Yeah. Just make sure it's watertight, right?
Mhm.
So you might want to, get it on perfect and really squeeze it around there. So the big idea that we need to take from the water tank into the video game is that we need some good wide boats. We need to spread out the weight.
Now we can test.
We don't want to put weight on here like this, right? That's too wobbly. But do you want to test 2?
Yeah.
And we definitely want to use data in all forms that we can get it
Oh, it almost.
to make these boats as good as possible.
What is it? Kind of good.
It's close, right? Might just need one more. So I think, so it's obviously wide, it's wider than it's taller, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what we'd want to do is add boats here and here to really maximize it.
Because I can't tape them on.
Well, let's do 1. Grab me 1. We'll try 1 last and pretty. And that's what engineering's all about, is really testing out an idea as much as we can. I also have some cheat stuff that we will look at
And
right.
this one has cap.
That's good. That's good.
Very good.
All right. So we're going to put it right here. So that way it makes it a bigger rectangle.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So cap to cap.
And cap the bottle.
Exactly.
Cool.
And then it makes it much, much wider. All right. There we go. All right, final test before video game. You want to hold this one? All right, let's try and see. What does it feel
It feels like I think I need to put a bit to warp.
like? Is it just off a little bit? So if you ever really want to cheat in this game, grab this stuff from all the Amazon packages we're getting these days. And that adds free air. Almost too much air.
Ballast tank.
It's like an ballast tank's weight, and this is like extra buoyancy. All right, so let's put it over here, but let's move the weight over here.
I suppose it's
Definitely takes a little bit of messing around with, but we definitely have good time for science these days.
Kinda.
All right, kind of. But good exploration. So there's a few challenges that we have on the Naval Engineers. You can grab that, go to that computer.
Okay.
I'll catch up with you. All right. Actually, I'll sit down so you can see me a little better. Let me clean off my hands. Yeah, it's all set up. Here you go. All right. So I'm going to start up the game. I'm going to share my screen and show exactly. Let's do share screen. And I'm going to go and show you from the very beginning. Let's say yes, share. So from the very beginning, all right, let me pop this off for a second. From the very beginning, you open up Fleet. And I'm using a special version because I don't want to send out my video game through the same channel that it communicates with the server. So I'm playing a local version, but yours will connect to a server, do high scores, do all that great stuff. Every time it opens up, it checks to see if there's updates. when you first log in, you don't have an account, so you need to sign up now. The code is Fleet, all lowercase, Fleet Rocks 2018. And this is in the download information that we have available on the same website. And then you hit submit, and it'll bring you to this. Well, not on this version, but you hit submit, and then you would put in your own login information. It looks like this. Okay. So you create your own username, your password, your email. And then if you're playing it for a school or with your Boy Scouts or your Girl Scouts or a local STEM group or even your neighborhood, you can keep your own high scoreboard through the organization. But what I'm going to do is do a special little thing. I'm going to go to settings and I'm going to play offline. And I'm going to play. And it's going to bring me into the first screen of the game. And so let me make that full screen. I'm hitting Control F. Excellent. And it takes a little bit to load. But
Excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
I had a question. How are we supposed to get the game? Because I was on the website and once I got it, it treated it like an online order and it says that it's being shipped to my house, but I can't really figure out how to download it.
Yeah, so there's 2 steps there. So on the receipt, if there should be a link there. And if you're using a Windows computer, sometimes when you click the link, you'll have like a pop-up blocker. But if you right-click it to open it in a new tab, it'll definitely work.
Oh,
Did that work for you?
yeah. I just downloaded a new tab. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. I think we're at about 1,900 users now. So what's unfortunate is every little hang up like you just described, we've seen. So if you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. For those of you who are just checking out for the first time, on the homepage, it says something like Maryland STEM Festival Welcome. You can download this for Mac or Windows. And I just put the link, the direct link for the zip file in where it says Mac and in where it says Windows. So you can kind of avoid that hassle, but I know it's an odd looking header. But if you're just getting into it and you want to catch up, go to the navalengineers.org, click STEM-fleet, and then click Mac or Windows, depending on which machine you have. And honestly, it's going to take a little bit of time for it to open up. On the same website where you downloaded that game, though, is the user guide, which is like 44 pages of describing every button to the, I'm sure there's a bunch of gamers listening to me right now, to people who haven't played a video game in many decades. So if we described it to your teachers and your grandparents, I am sure that you'll be able to figure it out. And I'll be showing you everything in the game right now too. So from this screen, we have missions, which is where we can get into the things like search and rescue, doing combat practice, doing heavy sea logistical missions. Those take about 10 minutes to begin with. Once you get towards setting a high score, we'll be closer to like 5 or 6 minutes. But for the beginning, we're just going to do quick play. Because quick play, there's no budgets. So engineering is like science plus like having a budget and people telling you to do work faster than you can possibly do it, which is awesome because it's all like exciting and fast paced. But the game is set up like life. So in quick play, we at least avoid the budget constraint. So we can spend as much money as we would like. This area is called a dry dock. This is where we pull ships into. Then we pump the water out. So that way we can actually work on the ship. And a lot of it's metal work. So it's a lot of welding. And that stuff's a lot safer to do when there's no water about. So what we have here is a combat craft, which is pretty small. You can see my displacement. So the idea is that the water that the ship moves out of the way is equal to the weight of the ship. That's the basic physics. If you've heard of Archimedes' principle, that was discovered back in the Greek times, that the amount of water, the weight of the boat the weight of the boat is going to push away that amount of water. And the force of that water trying to get back there is what actually holds up the boat. So if the boat's heavier than the amount of water it can move out of the way, it sinks. That's the very technical way of how we sink a boat. But what I'm going to do, first, if we want to add stuff to the boat, we hit the plus sign.
If we want to see what's on the boat, we hit the ship button. If we want to keep something in a place so that we can find it quickly, we put it here. But I think you'll find you'll be able to find everything pretty quick. We don't use that button all that much. You can change how you look at the boat. And then what I'm doing is right clicking, and then I can treat it like the true simulator that we're using. If you get really frustrated, as I do from time to time, and you just want to start over, you can click load default ship and it'll give you something that works. But since we're engineers, we want to delete this ship and start from scratch. So the first thing that we need to put on our ship is a hull. And we're going to choose this hull. That's the hull that we just looked at. And this hull takes a little bit more work than we have today. So now we've got a big hull. If you remember, that combat practice boat weighed 52,000 kilograms. Now we're at 170,000 kilograms. And we need to get close to 450,000 kilograms for us to be able to use this boat well. We also we can use this as a checklist. So we've got propellers, engines, rudders, deckhouse. We have to add all those things. And then there's other options that we can have on here as well. So let's treat it like a checklist. Under structure, we're not going to find propellers, okay? But under propulsion, we will. So we can have options. We have high efficiency, which costs 50,000, and baseline, which costs 30,000. We're going to spend the money. We got the money. Let's spend it. I didn't get to place the propellers on there because the propellers have to go in one spot. Can't put the propellers on the front of the boat. This isn't like a Kerbal where you can kill your boat by making an interesting decision. We have engines. There's a couple engines that we can choose for here. Medium speed diesel and turbocharged diesel. Of course, we're going turbocharged. We're spending the extra $100,000. This is half the boat, and I can place it anywhere. But just like we saw with the in-water demo, we need to put the weight in the center. And actually, the center of the boat is here. And what we need is a long propeller shaft. If you, like I, see a lot of inboard, outboard boats, we can't just put the engine on the back. It's too much weight. This engine weighs, and we'll go check it out by seeing what's on our ship. Engines. This weighs 30,000 kilograms. That's a lot of weight that we don't want to just put on the end of the boat. It's right now it'd be what, like 15% of our boat weight. By the end, it'll be like 7 or 8. That's still a ton. If you are thinking about becoming a naval engineer, really going into it, these are some of the terms that we use in a freshman year of college naval architecture class. And this is the physics of how water is pushing, how gravity pushes down and water pushes back up. And if this is interesting to you, certainly send me an email after this. My email is fleet@navalengineers.org, and I'll put that in the chat before we wrap up. It's just fleet@navalengineers.org. And we can talk through these hydrostatic charts. All right, so then let's finish this up. We got rudders, which is a structure. So I'm back to adding things. There's nothing left under propulsion that I haven't added. We haven't got to advanced yet, but we will soon. We got rudders, low drag, high turn force balanced. So they all cost the same if you see. They're all $10,000. I'm going to go low drag, make this as fast as possible. And then I'm going to add in a deck house, which is under superstructure. And so we can add in one that's pretty long and holds 20,000 people or 20 people, woo, or one that holds 10. They both cost $500,000. So we aren't seeing our money track on here, but it is quite expensive. All right, so I'm putting this in the middle and suspiciously left a little bit room because I'm going to add one more thing. I'm going to add a helo deck, which is short for helicopter. For any of you down by Pax River, I'm sure you are already aware of this. And that gives me, now I have a new option. I can add a helicopter. And so I'm going to add in, I've got a helicopter that costs $350,000 and goes 55 knots, or one that costs $300,000 and goes 35 knots. We're spending the money. We're spending that money. But we still have a problem. The boat should be weighing about 450,000. It weighs 296,000. What we need to do is add in one more structure. And it's not under advanced. It's actually a structure, and it's called ballast tanks. And so we didn't see this with our water bottles, but what it would have been like is a similar idea is if we put a little water in each of the little water bottles, so that way it was a little bit more steady, especially if there was waves pushing against it. So the way, if you think about an empty tin can on the water, it's easy for it to flip over. But if you put a lot of structure, a lot of weight in the bottom of it, then we're able to make it work. If you try to replicate this, you don't want to just pour water in the bottom of your boat because it'll slosh around and it'll actually make it worse. The real key is that it's tanks, that these tanks don't let the water move around. So it's a supreme amount of weight that's actually trapped. And if you saw, this thing cost $500 and we're literally putting ocean water in here. So the cheapest thing on the ocean is ocean. So this is a really, I would say, elegant, it's a nice, cheap solution to a really important problem. So much so that people have been using this solution across the globe for a long, long time. And actually, there are some new designs to make it so that these tanks are actually allow water to pass through as like a little bit more of an environmentally friendly way. And it's just a reminder that, we've been using boats probably for tens of thousands of years. We've been using them for a long time, but we're always improving them. And actually, if you're on our website, you can see that we're leading a college competition where colleges are building electric powered boats for our race this July, and just shows you how, even old ideas keep getting new fresh breaths. So while I was doing all that blathering, I added a ton of water, right? And actually many, many tons. We're up to 427,000 kilograms. That's a little bit on the light side, but for what we're about to do, it'll be okay. But it's certainly a variable that you want to experiment with. And if you look on some of the other videos on our site, we really push studying with data, writing down tables where you're writing down the components, writing down the costs, writing down the weight of your ship. And then we're going to go do some tests. Oh, so that first test was to make sure the boat was stable, that it didn't fall over right when we did a test, right when we hit a wave. And we were very successful. So we have a speed test, a maneuverability test. Our boat isn't ready for combat. And we'll see, we don't have the required components, but we have a helicopter. So we're going to go back in a little bit and we'll fix our boat so we can do the rescue practice. All right. So speed test first. If you like Minecraft, like the Minecraft keys, WASD works. You can go with that. If you want to just use the arrow keys, hit up, hit down, hit left, hit right, you're good for steering. When this game gets to be really more of an engineering simulator for you, you'll probably want to start using the speed 2x button because it makes time go twice as fast. We're always working on this code, so it always reminds us that in a video game simulator, what we're really doing is everything's a variable. Time's a variable, weight's a variable, gravity could even be a variable. There's another, we could change it so this could be like on Mars or the moon. We could really change anything in this game. And so what we're doing right now is just seeing how fast our boat is as we configured it. I'm trying not to steer too much because it slows the boat down just a little bit, but I do need to keep it between the buoys. Just like a field goal kick or a soccer goal, we got to keep it straight to get it right between here. When we get to the end, we get data. We love data. 1:44, that's pretty good, but I'm sure we can do better. And if we immediately had an idea, we could go back to dry dock and fix our boat. We could check out the logbook, see where we stand in the high scores, but let's go and do the maneuverability test, and then we'll go back to the dry dock. So in the maneuverability test, we got to go through a S-shaped course. And so again, the throttle you can just put it down and leave it alone. If you need to go backwards, which we definitely do in some of the missions, you can adjust it by hitting down or S. What we're doing now, though, is we're going to turn through the course. And we just need to keep these red buoys on our right and the green buoys on the left. And at this small lull in the conversation, if you have questions, please pipe in. The one thing I wanted to mention also is that we have a Naval Engineers Journal. It's like a research magazine that we've been putting out since 1889. And this month's issue is all about 30 female engineers that really inspired us. So there's definitely a lot of biographies and a lot of reading material on our website. So if you want to dig more into what engineering's like for a variety of people, we want to go to dry dock. NavalEngineers.org has that material too. So in the actually, let's go back out. So we're going to go back to mission headquarters. Our boat's saved. We're okay. And we're going to click search and rescue. So we're going to try this mission. This mission, we go across the ocean, travel like 10,000 miles, 10,000 kilometers to finish that. This is about the stormy seas. And then this combat operations, I'm not going to touch on that today because I know anyone who's intrigued by that will immediately seek this out and check it out. The only thing I'll say is that you aim by right clicking and you fire by left clicking. Sometimes that's a little tricky for some. So I'm going to hit escape to make this go faster. And we're back here, and now we've got two things. We've got a budget, which is always sad. And we've got, we need a rescue equipment. So in quick play, it would have been hard to know what we were missing. But in the missions, it tells you directly. And what I had to grab was a cargo called rescue equipment. And I'm hitting R. If you look on the bottom of my screen on the right side, I could hit escape if I don't want to add it, but I want to rotate it so it fits better. And then what I need to do, sadly, is downgrade my helicopter. So I'm going to throw my helicopter in the trash can, like, you know, any normal person would do, throw a helicopter in the trash can. And then we're going to add a new one on. And this one saved us $50,000. So now we're about 30,000 under budget. So now we can take this back out. We're going to have to do the stability test every time we make a change on our boat to make sure it's still safe for our sailors. But now we'll be able to do the search and rescue mission as well as the practice. Any questions so far on how this is working? That is excellent. So we're going to test it out. I'm going to do the rescue practice first, just so we can see these pieces, and then we'll run the mission out. The mission, we have to go like 3 minutes out. So we definitely have some time. If you think of a question, want to ask it, we definitely have some downtime coming up. Since my boat's 450 feet long and these people are small compared to that, there's tiny on my screen. But these are the people that we're trying to rescue. There's another one to my left that was over here. So you don't want to run them over. No sense hurting someone and then saving them. But you can rescue them by pulling up beside them kind of slowly. And then this bar appears above them. And then it goes from red to green and they're saved. We can also use rescue boats and rescue helicopters. I highly encourage you to hit up the first time you use the helicopter because it'll catch it on fire or run it into the boat. But I don't want to be accused of such madness. So I'm not doing that now. But we're flying around. I'm just using the same buttons. Now I do need to hold down W to go forward. And I put the person just so they're right off the screen here. And it kind of takes a little bit to get used to. But because the video camera is behind the helicopter, it makes a little optical illusion. That button pops out when I can save people. I click the button. It drops the rescue equipment so we can see them getting saved. And then we just need to fly back before I run out of fuel. And then this is the kind of data that we can also collect. We can collect how long it took us to save people. With this data, it's noisier. It's not like in chemistry or, in a science class where you measure the water in a graduate cylinder. And if it's 87 milliliters, it's 87 milliliters. Sometimes you want to do these things 2 times or 3 times and take an average. So that way you get like a better data set that you can really track. We're going to head back to missions. And I'm going to change it from sunny to stormy just to really put us on edge. So we are going to do a little stormy weather rescue. So this is what our boat is designed to do. We got a little bit of information up here that we're supposed to go to a heading 257 degrees west. And we treat this big compass up here like a big number line. And we are going straight for them. It's going to be a little bit to get out there, but just to recap what we've been doing today. Video games free. You can share it with all your friends. If you're a teacher and want to use it in a classroom, we help schools get set up in here all the time. There is a curriculum that's available if you want to use it for teaching force and motion, but a lot of schools just use it as an after-school piece for now. Particularly in our current environment, this is something that could be a club while people are at home, and it's video games, so it's a little bit engaging. If you're a student and you're thinking about naval engineering, I highly encourage you to do so. We're working with some of the universities in our area to talk more with college and high school students about what would be how we can talk about this industry to make it more attractive, because you're on the water, which is great. It's the highest paid engineering field. Part of that is because it's small. So it's not like a large number like computer science engineers. There's hundreds of thousands of them, right? There's a smaller number of naval engineers, but that's also nice because it's a real community where people get to work together and really get to know each other. If you just saw some people showed up on down here, that's where we're going. And
Wait, it's a high-paying field?
it is. It really is. And there's a couple naval, if you want to look at naval architecture,
Yeah.
that's where you can find some of the job listings right away. Naval engineering is kind of like the science of it. Naval architecture is something that you'll see a little bit more of the jobs titles for if you want to do like a quick Google search. But the science that you need to understand is like 3 courses different than what it takes to be an do aerodynamic engineering for like spaceships and airplanes. So it's a good amount of science that you'll get to know. But at the same time, you're on the water all the time. You're able to work with some really interesting problems. Obviously, in Annapolis, we've got the Naval Academy. That's a free education for this field. And there's a lot of jobs, especially in our area. Carter Rock, which is kind of by the American Legion Bridge, that's a huge base for naval engineering. And then there's a lot of companies that support them in our area. But yeah, I think that the study that we've been using for writing grants recently was a 2017 study, and the average income was $104,000. I might be a little bit off on the year, maybe a couple thousand off on the dollars, but it's definitely something that we're trying to, we're working with Howard, UMD, George Mason, and I think Catholic, to just try to investigate this a little bit more to really make sure we're able to spread what this field is. Because really the problem is that not many people think about who designs these boats.
If you don't mind me asking, could
Sure.
you go into detail on what's the difference between naval architecture and naval engineering?
Sure thing. So naval architecture is definitely about and so there's a lot of overlap to start out with. But the ways to think of that about what are the specific differences is the naval architects are about designing ships before they're actually executed. Naval engineers are more about keeping those ships going and working across all the systems. So a naval engineer would come more into play. So making the electronic system work with the hull, work with the propulsion system. And really, we have a lot of meetings and conferences that dive into how intelligent ships manage these different systems. So our conferences tend to focus on either a technology vision or a maintenance vision. So one of my favorite conferences we host is called Mega Rust. And it's just about the long-term battle of trying to keep rust off these things that are out in the salty seawater 270, 300 days a year. So naval engineers are definitely on most ships of, this kind of size because they keep the ship going as well. So there's a real practitioner piece to it. Whereas naval architects are definitely a little bit more close to the design and envisioning of the ship. But as you can imagine, a lot of people jump between those kind of roles where if you have a good skill set of understanding how ships are supposed to work, you can work with the different systems. And, you'll hear at Naval Engineering, a lot of people say it's a floating city because it has plumbing, electricity, a power source, and it has a bunch of other systems related to whatever its particular mission is, whether that's comms or combat or communications or combat or anything like that. Great question.
So would it still be like the same major in college? Because I'm hopefully planning on majoring in naval architecture and marine engineering.
Mm-hmm.
Would it still be that same major?
Yeah, I mean, and every school is a little different. You're not going to find a school that probably has naval architecture versus naval engineering. So you'll definitely have this field available to you for sure. And then like my cousin's a marine engineer. He works with a lot of the stuff that's in the water, near the water, but not necessarily a ship. So that's the kind of the three fields that are really closely related. But they all definitely get along together pretty well.
And so that's what you would major in to become a naval engineer.
Exactly.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And if you look at the list of schools, so under the education tab on our website, there's a link for our college competition called Promoting Electric Propulsion. And you'll see 12 schools in there that are participating in it. And like half those schools you would kind of expect from a naval architecture, naval engineering background, like Stevens Institute, Michigan, Princeton, those kinds of schools definitely are known for this kind of field. But schools like Georgia, Catholic, University of Kentucky, those are mechanical engineers and electrical engineers. And a lot of the most senior naval engineers that presented our conferences actually went through a mechanical engineering program or electrical engineering program, and then broadened, got a little bit more focused on the naval side of it. And that's where they ended up finding their career path.
Wait, does Princeton have a naval engineering program?
They have a focus on it, but the people that I'm working with are actually a student-led group within the engineering department that decided that they really wanted to focus on constructing electrical systems, specifically in a naval environment. So,
Oh, wow, that's so cool.
yeah.
Because
So
I knew University of Michigan had a really good program, but I had no idea about Princeton.
right. Well, and so a lot of our members go back for continuing education at MIT also. Their program's really strong. And obviously the Naval Academy and Coast Guard. For this competition, it's a little bit more about like grant money. And we can't give grant money to the government because they're the ones granting the money. So we work closely with Naval Academy, and actually our current student president is at the Naval Academy. But there's certainly a lot of different schools that work in this field. University of Washington, University of or Oregon State University are some West Coast schools that also do a lot of this, San Diego State. And we have a pretty active chapter down at the University of New Orleans also. So it's a lot where you'd expect it, right around the coast, and Maryland's obviously a big hotbed for that. But what's interesting is like one of our bigger sections is actually in Indiana, because there's a lot of naval work that's done there too. So while we've been talking, I've just been showing other aspects of the game. When the weather's nicer, it makes it a little easier to work with it. I'm going to go back to the dry dock because I think for those of you that are in high school or thinking a little bit more seriously about this as a career, the real value of this game is not that it's a game, that it's a simulator. And so being able to fill the ballast tanks in an unsymmetrical way, being able to see whether the least amount of weight or the most amount of weight, how that affects your times in real life, real simulator life, can really help like investigate these kind of naval concepts without needing to necessarily be in a freshman naval art classroom. So these hydrostatic charts I showed before, if you wanted to dig into them on all of your craft, I don't know how it's going to work in the local version, but I clicked the logbook, which was up here. It's just a little book, and it shows you your ships And then you can click your ships and you can look more at the actual properties, the three-dimensional geometry of the center of buoyancy, the center of flotation, and these tool tips, you can mouse over it and it gives you a little bit of a definition, which, we definitely worked with some people to make sure it was pretty usable. But anything you don't know, you can always email me, fleet@navalengineers.org, or you can just Google, right? Like, we are in the information age. So if you have questions as you're looking through here, you're definitely able to explore it a little bit more. The modeling component is here, and this again works by just right-clicking and moving it around. And then you can also keep your some of the data here, not as much as you'd want, honestly. So I'm going to turn back here, and actually I'm going to pull up our website just for a moment. So this is what I was talking about. If you haven't downloaded the game, want to, you can definitely click these links. If you want to explore some of the scholarships are more for sophomores, juniors, and seniors, but definitely something to keep in mind down the road if you're looking at this field in a somewhat serious way, or, these are $4,000 scholarships, which definitely won't give you a full ride, but it's another $4,000 you don't have to pay back. Our college competition is here. We'll actually be at the Coast Guard Yard in Baltimore in July to do this. All things, hoping, right? We hope that we're able to get together then. We've moved all of our conferences online for the last year. So we have a good amount of videos in the on-demand learning section where we're able to help groups get caught up to speed in different aspects. Because naval engineering, a lot, like I was saying, some people come to the field through the naval architecture, naval engineering programs, and then they sometimes need a little bit more help with like the electrical engineering, the systems engineering. Sometimes people come in from the mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and then need a little bit of more help on we have a course called like kayaks to carriers that like really gets people into all the naval architecture terms as quickly as possible. And it was one of the things that we used with these college teams to help them get up to speed. The journal that I was talking about is right here. And if any teachers are listening to this now or recording later, we invite groups of high school students to these conferences. And if you are thinking about that either in the summer or, looking ahead to next year, definitely shoot me an email. And let me stop sharing now so I can put my email address back in the chat. And you can definitely email me when I just see a MacBook. So the MacBook question that's been in here, sorry about that. I have that on, I'm the developer and I have that issue on my Mac, or I'm not the developer, but I'm involved in it. And so what you have to do is go into your settings and say, I'm okay with this happening one time. So if you go into settings and under security, you can hit that lock button and it'll allow you to open the game one time. We've done it on hundreds of Macs, haven't had a problem with it. So you should be fine. You can definitely email me if you run into any other issues. Sorry, Grace, I didn't see that earlier.
No worries. I found a way to override it.
Excellent. That's the problem solving we need from engineers.
Yes.
It's an implicit test.
Yeah.
Mike, I'm sorry, I'll let you ask your question, Grace.
Go ahead. It's good.
No, I was going to wrap up, so please ask your question. So,
Oh, I was just gonna ask, what are like the biggest employers and what does the job outlook look like?
So some of it, right off the bat, you see Lockheed, like those kind of companies. I know that they have a military focus, but they also do a lot of commercial. Some of the smaller companies, one's called Gibbs and Cox. It's a couple hundred people that do naval engineering. They're located right in Arlington. And as far as like large employers and naval architects, they hire a lot every year, and they have really interesting projects around the globe. And then what I would do is look at federal government, obviously, has a ton of openings. And then if you use the search terms for Annapolis, Baltimore, if you're interested, the Virginia Beach Tidewater area,
Yep, I was gonna say
and
that.
then Naval Engineering, and you'll be able to find these jobs as well. But like the Lockheed's, the Leidos, ABS, they all do a lot of hiring as well. So there's a great number of jobs out there. When I talk with the members, you know, I often am the youngest one in the room, which isn't the best thing. And they know that that we call it the graying of the workforce, where there's going to be a lot of hiring over the next 10 years. And I think that people are pretty excited by that, because there's a lot of opportunity to really integrate the changes in how we do computing with how we're working these ships into some really interesting ways. I saw today even, I know it's silly, but they created a micro boat that was 30 microns wide, you know, to move things in your bloodstream. It literally looked like a little tugboat. So, you know, the where we'll be 5 years from now will be really exciting.
Okay.
Phil,
Well,
really,
Mike,
I just want to say thank you. Thanks for making this happen. Really appreciate it.
sure. Well, thank you, Mike. This was a great program. We did not connect with Facebook, but we've recorded this. We're going to post it on Facebook. And then in a week or so, we're going to post on a YouTube channel, and we'll encourage teachers and students to watch it. So, because this was a great program, and hopefully will inspire some naval engineers.
That's great. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, Mike. We'll be in touch.
All right. Bye.